Hey guys, what's up? Stock Retail coming back at you. Hope you're having a great day. Happy Monday, happy beginning of the week, and happy another numbers video from Stock Retail. Hopefully it's not overkill for you guys lately. Just had put off a few of these. Obviously had a nice summer, and I hope you guys did too. And it's just time to kind of look forward a bit. So if you missed the last video, I guess really the last three, if you think about it, I did a deep dive on the Q2 earnings as a recap and gave you the scorecard that I do every quarter. That keeps us balanced. We look at that through an objective lens of data. So go back to that if you want to see how did we do in Q2. I just did a Q3 quarterly forecast of the box office and what that means to AMC. Boy, that one was interesting. I don't know why. It's a pretty vanilla numbers video and got a whole lot of trolls on that one. Quite a few I've actually just booted from the channel. I don't mind if people disagree with me. I don't even mind for some of you if you're a little shilly, because sometimes I'll tolerate it and kind of laugh at it. But a few kind of went a little too far for my taste. And in particular, I've always had the point of view, even more here on YouTube than on my X feed, that I don't necessarily need to give people my space to try to artificially sway sentiment negatively. But we're going to talk about that a little bit. So anyway, you can see the Q3 video, go through the numbers, see what we're tracking at for the quarter. A few people respectfully felt that maybe I was a little low on the box office. I hope they're right. Honestly, I've had that conversation many quarters. Many times people have thought that I was maybe too conservative. Usually I will say I ended up being right, but I will just say I do honestly always hope that you guys are right. Some of you who maybe challenge me and say, hey, maybe you're too conservative with this movie or that movie. And we'll take that tone today. I'm going to even just show you what I think the biggest movies are in Q4, or give you a chance to kind of debate that. And so we'll look today at Q4 and how that relates to AMC, and why you, I think, kind of heard Adam be a little bit bullish on Q4. But let's, back that up as usual. Before I do that, I mentioned the last video, and it's not just on the video. I would say the last week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, between X and YouTube, something has happened. I don't know if new payroll went out. I don't know if some of you got cranky with the end of summer. I don't know if it's because I've been calling out Rich Greenfield a bit. Something's going on where the level of venom and poison and misinformation and attacks to me, I can only speak for myself, but the attacks on me have grown quite a bit over the last few weeks. I saw a shill who tried to rewrite history, something that happened a couple of years ago, and he said it completely backwards, tried to attack me. I decided not to bother talking about that. The last couple of videos, like I said, got a lot of people. There's people calling me a liar. There's people saying I'm an idiot, all that stuff. This is normal, right? If you've been in AMC for a few years, this is what the shorts do. That's why I call them distorters. That's why I call them manipulators. They're not here to engage in good faith and have a real conversation. This isn't sitting at the table and talking with your friends or family. This is people who are just interested in breaking your spirit and making sure that no one ever follows an account like me. And some of you, they're making sure they don't follow organic voices. They want to make sure only their manipulated spin doctors who read from scripts are supported. So I'm going to sort of do this as a mailbag, as a response to some of the attacks, and then we'll just move forward and talk about the numbers. So to one of you, no, I do not believe half of what I say. I believe all of it. I back it up with a track record of accuracy, with facts over FUD. If you guys have followed me for, now 4.5 years, you know how frequently I've been right. That it's not arrogant when you actually have delivered time and again. And I will talk in a minute, actually, about some things I've gotten wrong. I see your foot soldiers flipping history. I just talked about that. Remember, though, I keep receipts. I really do. And so I would just be cautious if I was you. Ape was converted after all, wasn't it? I think the right people will know what I'm talking about there. You can spin numbers all you like, but reporting them is better than spin. That's why I go back to the Q2 deep dive. I showed you the scorecard. Numbers don't lie. Ball don't lie, kind of a thing. Anyway, so just laughing because Rasheed Wallace, if you know Ball Don't Lie, he was a long-time Blazer, and so I kind of watched his career for a while. So just some memories there. But anyway, so numbers don't lie. Come correct. Back it up with respectful and data-backed sourced points. Data-backed/sourced points. If you're just going to come yell at me and call me a liar, it's like, all right, I'll have fun with you for a minute, little cat and mouse with you, and then you're just going to get booted from the channel. I don't have to let that happen here. This is a free country, but that is a coin with two sides. And this is my channel, and yeah, if you're not going to be respectful, I may just say you're not going to be here. All right, listen to the videos before you respond to them. Boy, a lot of people tried to correct me on the point that I'm going to show you again today. And I think most of them were not in good faith because they were pretty snarky and rude and disrespectful. It'll make your argument better if you actually listen to what I say, because if you're arguing with things I didn't say, then you just kind of out yourself. All right, enough of that. Here's some things that I've gotten right and what I've got wrong, and then we're going to start talking about where we are. And this is a little bit in response to, people want to attack me, then fine, but let's deal with the actual history of my work. All right, so every quarter, the box office accuracy, I've been 96+% for, I don't know how long I've been publicly saying box office numbers, 3 years or something like that. Let's see, yeah, about 3 years, probably publicly here on YouTube anyway. So for every quarter to be in the high 90s, most quarters been even 98% plus. This quarter looks like I might track at like 99.8% accuracy. Like I might have really nailed it down to the penny. Let's wait. Some of you disagreed, thought September will be bigger than what I'm saying. And again, I'm hopeful that you would be right. I'd rather see upside to my forecast. But a track record of getting that right, and a track record of even being closer than the industry on most of the box office forecasts. On earnings, also a track record there of beating Wall Street, of being more accurate than Wall Street. Last quarter, I published the earnings before the earnings call for you guys so that you can know I'm not blowing smoke. I'm not just pretending I got something right. I publish it so you have the receipts on me, and I am held accountable to say, all right, where was I wrong? So last quarter, I got 96% correct, literally 96.0 on revenue. I think I was off by, I don't know, it was 20-some million dollars. Maybe it's 28. I'd have to go back and look, but it was 96.0% accuracy on the revenue in total. Basically, anything I missed was on attendance-driven numbers. We were lower on attendance than I expected. And then obviously the pricing offset that, so I helped me gain some back. And then I was 99% accurate. It was 98.9 if you want to be real specific on the expenses. So there, $1.4 billion of his expenses, I was only off by 15 million. And by the way, that was to our upside. So I had forecast $15 million more expenses than what we had last quarter. So to the people who say, do you even believe what you're saying? Well, yeah, because I keep getting it right. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to have some confidence in what I'm saying. In fact, go all the way back to the creation of this channel. Privately, I'd been sharing numbers with some friends back then, and I had not been publishing them. And then when I kept getting it right, that's what gave me the confidence to go ahead and share with you guys. All right, so here's a couple things I've gotten wrong. I just mentioned attendance. We have definitely had downside attendance to my numbers, in particular in the bigger quarters. We had that quarter last year where we had sort of an urban-suburban mix, as Adam and Sean described it, where for some of the movies, basically the higher attendance rates were in communities where there wasn't really an AMC there. And then I would just say I needed to account more for closures that we've had. I mean, of course, that's going to drive your attendance down globally. You don't have those properties. Pricing, I'm sure, had something to do. Our pricing was pretty high, which is fantastic. We've got great contribution per attendee, but that may be driving volume down, right? That's just the sort of price volume mix that you might study in economics, the price elasticity of demand. We've had this UK, this is kind of old news, but we had a competitor there really underpricing the market. Adam and team had shared that with us. I don't know to what extent we've gained our market share back there. And then I mentioned the urban-suburban mix. That is something I've gotten wrong, and I got it wrong this last quarter. I thought our attendance was recovering more than it did. Now, I have shared with you since then that, two things. I just told you I was still in the high 90% of accuracy on the bottom line numbers. So fantastic on that. And I've shared with you, we've talked about the 50% off Wednesdays and how great that's going. I think that will recover some attendance volume for us in Q3 and going forward. And did you notice, by the way, I don't have it in this video, but did you notice Adam posting about that today? That was cool to see. We had the huge Times Square advertisement for AMC. So AMC representing right there in the middle of Times Square today. If you missed that, go check out Adam's X feed. He posted about that. So that was pretty cool. And so I do think that Wednesday 50% off for Stubs members is working. I think the team liked it so much they took out a whole Times Square billboard on it. And then pricing. I admit I did not see our pricing increasing as fast as it did, so we beat my numbers on pricing this last forecast, and so I think the Go plan is working. All right, enough of that. Let us talk about where we are, and then I'm going to jump to the Q4 box office and give you what I think are the biggest movies, and I'm going to give you the numbers. I want to run back through a few things because I think this is part of why the shills are getting really loud and why they're pretty annoyed with me and attacking me on X and YouTube. And probably, again, you're probably seeing, some of you and maybe other accounts getting attacked out there. It just seems to be in the water right now. Like I said, maybe their air conditioning broke and they're grouchy and sweaty. Guys, just, go drink a cold pop or something. All right, so joking aside, let's review some of the news recently. This next little section is going to all be slides I've already covered in the last few videos. So go back and look at those if you want to go a little deeper. But I want to run through these because they're important to consider. Sort of it positions where AMC is and what our direction is as a business. So I had shared in the last video, this was the one that people really tried to correct, and it was bizarre to me because if you look this sort of last quarter, bullet here, that I said this quarter is the seventh best. No, it's not this bullet here, the one above, 2025. We're in a streak of 3 in a row quarters above $2 billion. So what I had done is I talked through, and I'll try to do it faster here because, again, I had this slide in the last video. We have only had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and if you count Q2 of this year, 7 quarters. We've only had 7 quarters at $2 billion. And right now what I'm telling you is we're in the middle of 3 in a row, and it will be the first time ever that we'll have 3 in a row quarters at the domestic box office above $2 billion since pre-COVID. The first time in 6 years. That's a really big deal. The first time in 6 years that the box office will be above $2 billion. We're in the middle of it. Now, in the middle of it meant Q2, we just finished above $2 billion. Here in the middle, we're in Q3, and then Q4, I'm projecting forward, will also be above $2 billion. So those will be the 3 in a row. Some people like to they were giving me the meme that actually, you kind of misspell it, and there's the big guy with the glasses at his computer keyboard and all that. So a lot of people were actuallying me. Some were calling me a liar. Some were calling me stupid, and pretending that I didn't know that Q1 was not at $2 billion. Well, of course I knew that. I've reported on that to you guys. You can find plenty of videos on that. What I'm saying is Q2 through Q4, first time we'll have 3 in a row at $2 billion or above at the box office in 6 years. And I mean, I was even kind of saying that, hey, the industry is leveling back up. Watch Q4, which we're here to talk about today. Again, real quick review. This was a video I did basically about why is Netflix leaving money on the table. And just to kind of quick hit, I think what's happening right now is AMC and the theatrical industry, if you think about it as an arm wrestling match with streaming over the last, decade even, right now the theatrical industry is sort of winning the arm wrestling match, and I'm loving seeing that. And so I was showing you Happy Gilmore cost Netflix over $150 million, the expense to make, and then they had 0 global box office, no online rentals, no physical media sales, no shared community experience, just people watching in their house. And okay, they have it on their streaming platform. Well, now let's look at Weapons. I was just using that as one example. The production costs of Weapons were, basically only 1/4 of Happy Gilmore, 75% less cost to make it, $38 million. The global box office, by most forecasts in the industry now, it's far enough along. This is a pretty accurate forecast. Looks like it'll land 270 million plus, where Happy Gilmore was 0. And then you've still got online rentals that are going to drive more, digital rentals, in other words, that are going to drive more revenue, and digital purchases. You've got physical media sales. That's going to drive even more revenue for Weapons. The shared community experience of, I think I've got some animation here, like 30 million people globally will have gone and seen that together. And oh, by the way, I won't be surprised if someday Netflix pays Warner Brothers for the rights to show Weapons for a while. It'll be a year from now or a year and a half from now, and you'll see some ad from Netflix bragging that they have Weapons. Only, guess what? They're going to pay Warner Brothers to show it. So, and all the while, Warner Brothers has Weapons on their own platform. So it's just clear that the theatrical business model just kind of has a leg up. I'm not saying there's no purpose to streaming. In fact, there is. Weapons is going to be streaming, but Warner Brothers will have created this asset that lives on their streaming platform. And I've told you guys, Paramount has confirmed, like Maverick was basically the top streamed movie. Obviously Mission Impossible and some others like that, Sonic. get heavily streamed because they were so successful at theatrical. So what I was questioning, and I would just point you to the video on that, is okay, why is Netflix so stubborn? Why are they leaving money on the table? And I had some thoughts on that. You can go see that video if you want. But it's good news for the theatrical industry. More good news. The hits keep coming. So I had shown you in a recent video, just want to fly by this one too. If you look at the green line, that is AMC's rolling 12-month revenue. So if you take 4 combined quarters as we go, if you look backwards, 4 quarters, every time we report revenues, then you see these are all actuals. You could fact check me. These are all straight from AMC's filings with the SEC. So that green line being AMC's revenue, and you can see the numbers here at the right in millions. Our last 4 quarters rolled up to 4.9 billion, basically. I think it's a little above that. Sorry, maybe just below that. I think that's the line up here. But anyway, so you can see what's happening is our revenue is climbing steeply, right? Meanwhile, I was comparing that to our total liabilities. It's not like a standard metric that people do, revenue versus liabilities, but it was just something I wanted to look at. And what I was really sharing with you that I'll just hit quickly now is, hey, we're shrinking our liabilities. Things like debt, for example, and deferred rent and all the things Sean and team talk to you about every quarter. We're shrinking our liabilities while we're growing our revenue. That is a mark of a healthy company. And then I was showing you, and this is the real kicker. This is what shows you when Adam and team tell you, hey, we don't even need a pre-COVID box office. That was one of the trolls who basically tried to pretend they were ripping me a new one, but honestly, they didn't do a very good job. They were trying to say, hey, this Q2 here was lower than maybe pre-COVID Q2s. Well, sure, we had Avengers in quite a few of the Q2s for one thing. Next year we get Avengers back, right? We get Mando. We get some pretty big stuff next year. I think we got a new Mario. You guys get it. 2026 is going to be fun when I do that forecast. But here is this is the nail in the coffin of the short thesis. And this is showing that Adam and team, the Go plan is working. So here you can see at the bottom, Q3 18, Q3 19, Q4 19. All of these 3 quarters from pre-COVID were bigger than the box office we just finished, this Q2 that AMC just reported, just a couple weeks ago. And so the blue bars are the box office. And then you can see AMC's earnings. Well, you want to say, how come the orange line, the earnings, is lower on these bigger box offices? What you're seeing is we used to actually have worse earnings on a bigger box office. We just finished this box office here that's lower, the blue bar is lower, but the orange line is higher. So it's proving to you that we are more profitable now than we were pre-COVID. On a smaller box office, our earnings are actually better. Now remember also, this bottom line number, this earnings number you're seeing from the orange line, like this minus 4.7 this last quarter, which was the best of these 4 you're looking at, that includes non-cash expenses. So remember that our cash flow is positive, right? I've explained that on my channel a few times. Just go back to the video where I talk about this, and you will kind of see a little more explanation of all of that. But so that we had positive cash flows and we had better earnings on a lower box office. Well, what do you think when this box office grows? Now we got to start talking about that. We're almost 2 more slides, then we're going to finally do Q4 here, because that's going to matter. I want you guys to file this in your head. And the shills got real mad about this one, because it's exactly what Sean and Adam have been saying. Guys, we don't need the box office to be where it was pre-COVID. We're going to be profitable, and we're going to be more profitable than pre-COVID. And the other thing we've been talking about on my channel, and Adam and Sean have been talking about it, is operating leverage. As the box office gets higher, they're going to keep kind of a larger and larger percent of the growth of the box office. You're going to see our earnings number go up faster than the box office goes up. A couple more news items that you just want to keep in mind of, okay, what's going on in the theatrical industry that has the shorts kind of so shaken? Well, Skydance took over Paramount. That merger was approved. And immediately there were a few things that happened. One, Skydance said, we are not interested in making movies for streaming. They flat out just said, we're not doing that. 2, they said, hey, not only we're not making movies for straight to streaming, and we're focused on the theatrical industry. You can find the articles, by the way. You can always fact check me. I say on my channel all the time, there's no trust me bros here. When people try to fact check me and catch me, they always end up going, oh man, I guess he is a truth speaker. And that's the problem with shorts. They don't want to speak truth. They want to manipulate and distort. So if you just keep speaking truth and keeping positive, you will cut through. All right. And that's all I'm doing here. So Skydance said, hey, we're going to focus on theatrical, and not only that, we're going to almost triple. So it's a 2.5x what Paramount was making. So Adam had told you in the earnings call that Paramount maybe was not as, let's say, cash blessed as Skydance, where Skydance is bringing a little more capital. So what Skydance said is, hey, Paramount, we like the way you make movies. We can bring a little more capital and some industry know-how as well. We've got our own expertise. And then we want you now to not only make 8 movies a year as you have been, we want you to make 20 movies a year, and we're going to bring the cash to be able to do that. So what I've told you is now, go back to this chart. Imagine this quarter had 3 more Paramount movies. It's 3 more Paramount movies every quarter. And then there's been news since about how they're working with Legendary as well, so don't miss that. Okay, so we've just heard, I know Warner Brothers has said it explicitly, Paramount has said it explicitly, and of course Skydance with Paramount, that there have been multiple studios, and I think Sony was another, who have just said, we're not making movies for streaming, we're making movies for theatrical. On the heels of that, now this was an old slide now, because this was when it was a rumor that the Duffer Brothers, who are the creators of Stranger Things, that they would go to Paramount. Well, now it's not a rumor anymore, it happened. And oh, by the way, this really made the shorts annoyed. They took less money. It was confirmed that Netflix offered the Duffer Brothers actually more money than Paramount offered, but the Duffers wanted to focus on theatrical. They very specifically said they wanted to focus on tentpole movies. Now, they are also making streaming product, like shows, serial shows. Great, they made Stranger Things. That's awesome. Getting some more of that's going to be fun. But just so you know, they very explicitly, so Skydance said we're not making movies for streaming. The Duffer Brothers, who are the creators of Stranger Things, probably the biggest thing at Netflix, said, well, we want to go make movies for theatrical, so we're not staying with Netflix. Netflix said, please stay, we'll offer you even more money. The Duffer said, nope, we want to go make movies for theatrical. So you're hearing all that. Obviously bullish for theatrical. There is just no way of distorting and manipulating that. So I want to make sure my followers know all of that I just went through. If you want to maybe go through it slower, either slow me down and listen or go to my other videos. All right, so finally, let's talk about the Q4 box office. Let's kind of just roll through what Stock Retail thinks are the biggest 15 movies of the quarter. So you know that I go to, there's a site called Movie Insider. It's either Movie Insider or Movie Insiders. Anyway, if you look up like 2025 movies, you'll see that site that shows, and you can filter down to nationwide releases so that you're not looking at all the streaming releases and all the limited releases that are in just like 4 theaters. And so you can get all the movies for 2025. I fact-checked that against a couple other sites. There was a new one I hadn't really used before, so sorry, I'm not remembering off the top of my head. And I checked against IMDb. So you want to, I think I've told you all on some videos, but it's probably been a year or more, that you want to, whenever you're forecasting the box office, double check that movies are really coming out, because sometimes you'll think a movie, it was listed on one side and it turns out the producers or the studio has pulled the movie from the calendar and you don't even know when it's coming anymore. It means it's been delayed. The Michael Jackson biopic would be a good example, or Blade. Like, how many times has the Blade movie from Marvel just kept getting bumped and kept getting bumped? And so you want to make sure you have movies that are genuinely coming out. And I've done that. I fact-checked, 3 or 4 websites. And so I'm literally listing every movie for the whole quarter, and then I put forecasts against those. I check them against multiple sites. I like checking IMDb, Box Office Pro. Sometimes there's even Reddit discussions, just see what people think. There'll be a few others. There's some industry analysts I respect who sometimes I like to look at what they're saying. So that's how I've built up my forecast. That's how I've generally been right over time. And of course I apply a little bit of my own gut too into what I think. So what you're going to get here that is totally worth debating is what I think are the top 15 movies of Q4. So I'm going to show you numbers 15 through 4. We'll do a count up, and then you'll just know that this is my point of view that feeds my forecast I'm about to tell you. So at number 15, I believe the David movie. There's a cartoon coming out about young King David from kind of ancient times, like a Bible story. And in general, Angel Studios and some of their animations have gone pretty well. So I've got that at 15. At 14, and this would be one I think I may have under forecast. So Dwayne The Rock Johnson is playing an UFC fighter, and the movie is called The Smashing Machine, so it's kind of like a real life story. And boy, if you read online, there are a lot of discussions about how The Rock really threw himself into this role, really wanted to do it right and act well. And you can see Emily Blunt's in this, so there's some big names in this. Brought to you by A24. And so this is looking, so basically I'll put it this way: the industry forecasts are actually above my forecasts on this one, so hopefully I've been a little conservative there. There is a Springsteen biopic. I understand there's been plenty of politics between Springsteen and Trump and all that, but I mean, who cares in terms of, hey, this is an all-timer in terms of a musician. And the last couple of years we've had some pretty big biopics, right? We had the Elvis one, we had the Bob Dylan one, and now here we're getting Bruce Springsteen. So those tend to be fairly big. And, politics aside, he is a mega popular musician. I think this could be a cool movie. Let's just see, how that goes. I have a feeling all of you, left, right, and center, might be kind of interested in that one. So there's a chance I've under forecast that too. There's a new Anaconda movie. I mean, we get Paul Rudd and Jack Black doing Anaconda. Now, reminder, by the way, when I forecast, here's another thing you need to think about. You need to check the date that the movies come out, because like this one, I think it comes out Christmas Day or something like that. Well, then that means it's only got 7 days in this quarter. So if I don't say a certain movie is like the biggest one of the quarter or that kind of thing, I'm not just forecasting the total size of the movie. I'm trying to forecast how much is actually in Q4. And I do that every quarter. Like we've got some rollover from Q3 that I also capture in Q4. So part of what helps me try to get it right is you're factoring the timing of when are the revenues actually happening on both sides. Q3 that rolls into Q4, Q4 movies that are carrying over. Like Avatar comes out at the end of the year. So, all right, how much of that flows into the Q1 of next year? But anyway, so I've got Anaconda at 15, 14, 13, 12th place. So now 11th place, we've got a new Now You See Me, Now You Don't. Boy, I have seen the previews for that. That looks super cool. Looks very, very cool. So if you're into that franchise, or if you just are into some of the actors, there's some big names in that one too. I think that's going to be fun. All right, so coming in at number 10, I've got Mortal Kombat 2. There's a lot of posters I could choose from for that one, but the Johnny Cage with Carl Urban, that's looking pretty cool. If you've at all been into that franchise in terms of video games, you understand too, when they get video game movies right, and let's hope they've done that with this. So far I see good things. They can be somewhat big. There's a built-in audience for that. So that's why I've got that one kind of big. All right, so then at number 9, Black Phone 2. Man, that first Black Phone was so big. Like, I'm not a horror movie enthusiast. Honestly, I don't even watch most of them. But as an AMC shareholder, I sure do love when movies do well. And that one was huge. And the second one, I think, certainly Ethan Hawke is an amazing actor. Hoping that's gonna do great. And so then coming in next, we've got Five Nights at Freddy's. At 8th place. And boy, again, I think they realized last year, like, wow, we've got something here. And with a little more investment and some marketing, there's a chance this one is going to be pretty big. Then we roll into The Running Man. This is one of the ones I am more excited for than most. I am super excited about this one. It bumped, I want to say they bumped it like a week. They were just bumping it off of being in competition with, I think, Predator. I think Running Man and Predator were maybe coming out at the same time, and now they've bumped it. I applaud that. I love when movies get a chance to breathe and not have to, compete for screens and maybe get a chance to add a little numbers and pad our stats, right? So great for us to see, and I think The Running Man's going to be real big. Glenn Powell is certainly having a moment in the industry. That's going to be cool. And then Predator. So I actually have those two. I believe I had them tied in terms of how much revenue I forecast. So, you can debate me which one you think is going to be bigger. But Predator Badlands, I saw the trailer for that when I went to watch Jurassic. I went to watch Jurassic for our anniversary here recently and saw the trailer for Predator. And man, that one looks cooler than I thought it was going to be honest. So as soon as I saw that trailer, I actually bumped up my forecast. And again, you can find industry forecasts too to see what other people are thinking. SpongeBob, I don't know, laugh at me if you want, but there is such a huge fan base for that. People who grew up with that and kids who even watch it now. I just have a feeling that is going to be a big one. Don't miss again then that one comes out at Christmas. So I can't forecast all of the revenue from it in this quarter, but I do think that'll be pretty big. Tron Ares, man, I think Disney hopefully has done a great job bringing this franchise back. All of the trailers and the marketing looks really awesome. They partnered with Nine Inch Nails on the music. And honestly, the storyline, check it out sometime if you don't know the storyline of Tron. I don't want to spoil too much, but a lot to do with AI and just a lot of intrigue and action. Super, super cool looking. So, all right, let's go down to our top three then. You're probably already kind of guessing if you know what movies are coming out. But so for me, the top three of the quarter and some really big movies. Go look at the industry forecasts on these really, really big movies. At number three, I've got Zootopia 2. I believe that is going to be pretty huge, pretty much a Thanksgiving release on that. At number two, I've got Avatar. Now, that might surprise you. You're like, wait a second, Avatar? What's bigger than Avatar? The answer is nothing. But here's what you need. Maybe Endgame, but otherwise, Avatar is the biggest thing there is to movies, right? And we know that. By the way, also in the quarter that I get to forecast, we've got Avatar The Way of Water out for a week in October. So that'll be fun to see. And that definitely is helping pad our numbers. But again, so reminder, you can see on the poster here, Avatar coming out December 19th means there is a lot of revenue from Avatar that's in Q1 of 2026, which, by the way, I'm actually happy about that. Q1 is always the lightest quarter of the year, so anything that's adding revenue to our Q1 is helpful. I think that's going to be good, which means then number one, drum roll please, I've got Wicked for Good as the biggest movie of Q4 in terms of Q4 revenues. So I hope that's pretty clear. I'm not saying it's bigger than Avatar. I'm saying it's bigger in Q4 than Avatar. Whatever you think from just now, think back to this whole list of movies, these three huge movies, and a whole ton of movies that I didn't even put on this list. Go check it out sometime. We are going to have a really big Q4, something you should get excited about, which is what I've been saying, and why I can so confidently say we're going to be 3 in a row above $2 billion at the box office. So what do I think the box office is? Well, I just mentioned being above $2 billion. That's 3 in a row for the first time in 6 years. I think there are at least 7 $100 million plus 9-digit domestic box office hits, and maybe as many as 11. I just kind of don't think, I mean, it would take a lot to get to 11, but the point is, if you're hearing that in one quarter we have at least 7 9-digit domestic box office films, that is a robust box office. That is really looking great. And then, so you can see the third bullet here, I think we're hitting 2.8. That's my number. I was a little bit above 2.8. Let's just round it and call it 2.8 billion at the box office. That is our biggest box office of the entire ape or retail or post-COVID era. That would be a record for us. So I always tell you guys, if you followed me a while, you know what I'm about to say, but I have a lot of new followers, so let me make this clear. I worked in the field of forecasting. I led teams doing demand planning for over $2 billion of business a year. And we had a saying in forecasting, which is, if you have a forecast, it's wrong. So I hope everybody understands there's humility that I'm sharing these numbers with. There's a track record of getting them close, of getting them, mostly right. But you're going to see there's going to be movies that I put on these slides, a couple of them may even flop. There's going to be other movies I didn't put on these slides that are going to go viral and explode. There's a whole bunch of horror movies, for example, I didn't put on here. And, look at Weapons, look at Sinners. There have been some horror movies that have far outdone even the industry projections and my projections. So I'm telling you with humility, I think we'll be at 2.8. I think that's going to set an ape era or a post-COVID era record, which then means, and by the way, now remember I talked to you about what I've gotten wrong, the attendance in particular. I am being more conservative with my forecasts on attendance. That means you're going to see me saying, okay, I'm not going to overdo our food and beverage forecast. I'm not going to overdo our admissions forecast. Now there's a price lever to that too. If our price goes up but our people go down, do you make up some of the revenue? But I think, and I have said this once before and I did get it wrong that quarter, so again with humility, but I think we're going to hit $1.5 billion of revenue for AMC for the first time ever. So what I'm suggesting is you may see a Q4 with AMC's revenue. Now remember, we got popcorn and merch has grown too, so we've got some other things helping us. That's why, again, you don't need the full box office. And price and food and beverage is like 40% per person above pre-COVID. I've done all those videos too, and Adam and Sean have talked about it. So that's why then we have a shot at hitting our all-time record in revenues. This is again why the shorts are well, their shorts are in a bunch. I think they're a little concerned. Shorty, just breathe, relax. Numbers are numbers. You don't have to get angry about it. What you just need to do is figure out your positioning and get ready for this train that's coming. All right, so what does that mean then to AMC earnings? Well, if you account for all the non-cash expenses, right? So I'm going to include those here. And remember that Q4, go back and look at our last few Q4 filings. There's something called goodwill impairment in that. And I even did a whole video on goodwill impairment years ago because there was someone who I don't believe is really, supportive of GameStop, but who acts like a GameStop community member who said AMC would go bankrupt because of goodwill impairment and all this. And so I did a whole video, even consulted some CPAs to make sure I got it right from an accounting standpoint. And I told you guys how goodwill impairment has nothing to do. It's a non-cash expense. That's the main point. If you want to know more, go watch that video. But so been kind of shutting shills down for years here. And so I think our bottom line, right, which includes all these non-cash expenses like depreciation and amortization, like goodwill impairment, I think we're maybe $15 to $40 million of positive bottom line earnings. Let's see. Again, I can be wrong. My real number is kind of in the mid 30s. That's what I've got right now, but I'm going to give a range because I can be wrong to both sides, right? So, last quarter, like I said, I was pretty darn close on revenue, but I was over. In other words, we missed to the underside, and I was close on expenses, but I was under, so we got some upside. Point is, I think we'll easily have positive earnings in Q4. I think that's going to be fantastic. And certainly you're going to hear Adam talking about huge EBITDA numbers and really fantastic cash flow, positive cash flow. That was another one, by the way, Shills tried to use, because I was very upfront with you guys about Q3 that we may see negative cash flow for Q3 as a whole. Now, July was very positive cash flow. We came into Q3, just to repeat myself so I'm not fudding anybody, with $700 million of current liquidity. We added to that in July, in my opinion, because remember the refinance where we added some cash, and then on top of that, I believe July was cash flow positive. So even if August and September maybe burn a little cash, there's just no cause for concern whatsoever. And then Q4 is mega cash flow positive, like bigger than, we just had Q2 was positive cash flow, right? Q4 is going to be even bigger. And so what I've always said is the combined final 9 months, the combined 3 quarters, Q2, Q3, Q4 would be positive cash flows. And I actually said that before Adam and Sean even told you. So I'd like to say, okay, yay, maybe I saw that one coming. And then Adam and Sean said it in, a couple earnings calls ago. They said, hey, we believe our final 9 months of the year will be positive cash flows. Now some shills came at me because I said Q3, maybe some negative cash. And they said, well, I thought you said forever more positive cash. Well, everyone knows I never said such a thing. I said the combined final 9 months would be positive cash flows. And I'm sticking by that. That is still very, very true. I believe we're going to be very, very happy, which continues to destroy the short thesis because you're sitting on shorts having cost to borrow, opportunity cost of tying up your capital, all the cost of paying the bot farms and the shills and the short and distort campaigns online. And I'm just sitting here holding and waiting, and we're not going to run out of cash. We're actually building our cash. So let's circle back on those numbers then. So I'm telling you positive earnings, positive cash flows, maybe record revenues, fantastic box office. And let's go back to this slide, right? So there was a reason I showed you this at the beginning. Now think about if I just said probably landing at 2.8 billion at the box office. Well, let's add that, right? So if I said on this 267, we were at kind of a -5. Now remember, that's with non-cash. I'm going to just keep hammering that home. That has non-cash expenses. We had positive cash flows. Now let's add to the box office. What happens if in Q4, this box office was at 2.8 billion? There's that line, right? So we're going to add that. Well, you know what happens with the earnings number. Sorry, clicked the arrow the wrong way. That earnings number is going to go whoosh, and you're going to have something positive. That's why I'm very, very confident in saying if we hit this $2.8 billion box office, it is going to continue to just really put a nail in the coffin of the shorts, because you'll be able to compare back to Q3 of 2019 and you'll say, man, pre-COVID, we lost $55 million dollars on a $2.8 billion box office. Post-COVID, we gained, I'll make this up, $30 million. That's an $80 million swing. You're telling me we're $80 million more profitable on the same box office from 19 to 2025? The shorts will have no argument left whatsoever. And that's what Adam's trying to tell you is coming because of the operating leverage. He's trying to say, you watch our EBITDA start to rocket as the box office recovers. And then I want you to think about 2026. And like I said, we've got things like Mando, so Star Wars starts to return. We've got Avengers. We've got a Spider-Man movie, guys. There's been nothing bigger than Spider-Man the last few years. Go back and look at the numbers for Homecoming. It was bananas. And so 2026 is looking really, really great. So what starts to happen if, let's say, 3 out of the 4 quarters in 2026 looks anything like what I'm showing you here, right? Then we've got a full year of profits. I might be stealing my thunder. I think there's a chance I was saying some of this. So let's summarize all this, right? So what I've shown you is we had a string of good news. The shills are desperate for some kind of negativity. You know, I don't know why they ramped up their campaigns. If they're just trying to mess with me, I'm just going to guess it's not just me, that it's AMC in general. So something's going on about their desperation. You can just smell it in the air. You know, just play like the Nirvana smells like Teen Spirit, only this smells like desperation. We are maybe, you know, I'm putting a question mark here, having the highest post-COVID box office. Again, maybe all-time highs on AMC revenue. We're going to have positive earnings, really fantastic EBITDA, really fantastic cash flow. I've kind of pointed you towards 2026, and I'll make a video soon on the total year of 2026, talk about what that looks like. And you know that we will win. So let's go.